Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on today's segment of our podcast. Today we have a special guest who we will all be discussing the sexuality within the NBA. Our special guest today is, you guys might have heard of her, the one and only Miss Michelle Manzano.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me today on your podcast. I feel very welcome. Again, my name is Michelle Manzano, group leader of the Alpha team.
Alrighty, let's get right into things. First and foremost, in your opinion, what impact do you think the NBA player Jason Collins had on the sport?
Well, I think it had a pretty big impact on the NBA and as a sport and on the players. Back in 2013, Collins decided that if no one had come out previously, he would be brave enough to do it and be the first one. And so he did. It was breaking news for the NBA, more so because Collins was the first player in history to make this type of announcement nationwide. It went viral within minutes of it, being announced. However, former President Barack Obama mentioned in an interview that he was going to be very supportive of Collins, which many, citizens didn't agree with it because of religious purpose, sexual orientation purposes, and certain beliefs. But at the end of the day, the players were happy. The NBA itself was happy that he came out and actually, revealed who he really is and what he likes and how he wants to live the rest of his life.
All right. Next question. So, how do you think this announcement affected his family? His family, his friends, but most importantly, as we all know, he was married. So his ex-wife, Carolyn Moose.
This is where the opinion mostly is heard within families and friends. Colin had first mentioned it to his aunt, and they kept it between one another. And her response to this was that she saw it growing up. Colin is a twin. He has a twin brother. And she said that, the brother was always on the straight path versus Collins was more seen as that he was on the other path of what was known to be, the gay society. So his aunt said, to him, I kind of saw that coming. And he said, his response was, I know how to play straight, fake it straight. He never actually brought it out. And even so, Colin was in a relationship for 8 years. He was married for a couple years, and once he did not feel comfortable in the relationship, they had a separation and everyone went their way. But Carolyn, his ex-wife, never understood the reason why, because things were going so good. She saw him as her best friend, her soulmate, her husband, the father of her future kids, which this had all been destroyed after Colin had announced it. And she said she never thought this was going to ever happen. It was never going to come to a day where she thought, that Colin was part of the gay society.
Alrighty, and so one more question though before we head on out. Do you see, other NBA players or even athletes in other sports, nationwide or even international, like the Olympics or anything like that, coming out and expressing who they truly are?
I think Collins gave the initial step to open up to what not everyone is brave enough, like the NBA player had mentioned previously. I think this allows people a more openly and more accepted area. So, with this being said, yes, I do think that more players, females or males, will actually come out and bring this to the attention of an individual, or like Collins did, the actual sport, whether it's the NBA or MLB or FIFA. It might be revealed out there. So we'll hope to see announcements as they come.
All right, I think that's a good spot to wrap it up today. So once again, we want to thank you for joining us today on our podcast. So
all right, thank you for having me, and I hope everyone enjoyed this.